What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It's Friday to the Big Man on Campus podcast. I'm your host, the Big Man on Campus, here with Greg Peterson from VSIN. He joins us usually every Friday. Had him off a couple over the last couple weeks, but we have a really nice size card today. We'll break down the card. It's 5 o'clock here on February 16th, 2018. Decent night of hoops tonight. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Pretty good, pretty good. How's everything over at the VSIN studios? I know you're a big college basketball guy like myself. Many of the users know that. What do you got going on over at VSIN?
Things are fantastic. I'm hosting my new March to Madness show. It airs at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern every Saturday. Been having a good time with that. It's myself, Amal Shah, and Preston Johnson currently on the set of that. So we've been doing that. And my underdog plays have won 3-0. We have to pick one every week. So I've been perfect so far.
Very good. Good stuff. Good to hear. You can find Greg all over the VSIN airwaves on VSIN Live every day. Greg does some producing as well behind the scenes. Greg, let's jump into the show here. Before we do that, welcome into everyone listening. As always, hit the like button, retweet the show if you're on Twitter. It's a great way to get the show out to people that maybe don't know what's going. What's up, big man? Shout out to your paisan from Edgewater, New Jersey. My man, Gianni Del Gaudio. Welcome in, man. Nice to see you. You're very close, not far. I'm sure we'll link up at some point. Greg, last night, 104. Actually, I'm 1-2 last night. Could have been a really bad night. It would have been my first 0-3 of the season, but we're able to get a win with Weber State. Struck you out with Campbell and with Purdue University, who really have looked awful. Greg, who's your number one seed now that they're off? Auburn?
Auburn, yep. Auburn has replaced Purdue.
Very good. Yeah, that would I would totally agree. So 1-4 and 64 on the season, 62%, up 33.1 units. So let's keep it going. We'll bang out a play tonight. Get ready for the weekend. We'll go through the whole card. We'll try to give you an opinion on every game. You know, Greg and I are normally very good with getting through the games. Let's start it out, Greg. I'll start out with my play of the day here. We're going to go to 625, 626. This one jumped out at me at the beginning of the day. It jumped out at me last night when I was looking at the lines, and I'm going to rock with it here. I'm going to go with Niagara +5 in this game. Not sure I understand this line. I related a lot to the Weber State, Portland State game last night. I think it's really like the exact same game. You have a team, to me, on paper that's better than their opponent, going on the road and getting 4 or 5 points here. And in this case, we're getting 5. Niagara's a team that's been a great ATS team all season. 8-4 against the number on the road. They've covered 14 of 23 overall all season. And they scored 83.7 points a game. And what I love about Niagara and in this matchup, you're not going to get any pushback. Iona will run with you. They'll play what you want to play. They'll run with you. They're not going to try to slow it down and limit possessions and try to crack 60 possessions. They're gonna run with you, and that's something I love about this matchup. Also, you have to figure the likelihood of Deshaun Much probably won't be in there tonight. Deshaun Much has had some issues with Tim Clues to coach, and it's not really been a good situation. And with a school like this, I kind of related it to Portland State last night. When you have a student or an athlete of this caliber, you see him getting into fights with the coach and in Deontay North's situation of Portland State kicked off the team. That can affect your team. That's a huge loss. We all know Iona is very guard reliant as it is. And I think that's a big concern here tonight. I like what Niagara's done on defense as well. I think they've gotten a little bit better. Look, they're never going to be Cincinnati or Virginia on defense, but I have seen a little bit of an improvement from this group over the last 5 games or so. Opponents only shooting 42.5% against them, and they have a huge rebounding advantage. All in all, signs that point right to Niagara here. I think they go on the road and get a big-time win. They're still very alive in this conference to win the regular season title. I love the fact that really everything seems to look up here. I'm going to go with Niagara here, +5, my play of the day. Greg, what were your thoughts on this game?
I actually think that Iona has a good chance just because this team is so good at home. I mean, the Iona home court advantage is something I feel like you cannot underestimate, though I will say not having much in the lineup is going to be a little bit suspect for them because we saw them get absolutely blown out by Monmouth. I think this could be a little bit of a bounce back spot. Niagara is a team that has been better in MAC play, but we've seen them have a couple letdowns as well. So I'm actually on Iona in this one. This is one of the rare times where we disagree, but I mean, this is certainly one where I could see coming right down to the number.
Yeah, interesting. I was almost sure you would be on Niagara here. I get what you're saying about they are good at home, and look, most teams are good at home. The problem that I have is the 3 and 5 against the number at home. And in this case, that's where I need it to be. I'm not saying that I don't know if Iona will win. I just think it's going to come down to, really, the last several possessions. It's interesting. I don't think we've been off on the other side of each other really at all, but we'll see what happens. Looking forward to it. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully we can, obviously cash in on maybe Deshaun Much not being in there, which might be important. So Greg and I going head to head here with my play of the day. So we'll see what happens in this one. May the best man win. Let's keep it going. Let's get into some comments here. We'll get into the rest of the card. Just one play for me tonight, and that's going to be that Niagara plus the 5. Greg, let's go to the big showdown in Olean, New York. That would be the St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure gets Rhode Island. Rhode Island laying 2, total 150.5. Or do we have a 151 out there? No, all 150 and a halves, or a couple 150s if you want Pinnacle or 5 dimes. You can't get that 150 if you like the over. Greg, I've actually I've done a lot on this game today. I've looked into it. I'm pretty, I think you and I are both well aware of both these teams. And look, we all know Rhode Island is a fantastic basketball team. What I love about Hurley this year is, I don't know if you remember last year, but you notice how last year they were really under fire for their inability to schedule tough games. They had question marks all season about the validity of how good they were. They didn't play anyone. Did you notice this year? Look at that schedule. Look at that RPI. Look at that SOS. You got to respect guys, Greg, like Hurley that go out and schedule people. After knowing last year, he's going to need it.
I completely agree with you. And don't forget, St. Bonaventure a couple years ago is a team that was the first team out of the NCAA tournament. They went out. They were able to schedule Maryland and Syracuse themselves. So that's why St. Bonaventure currently has a top 40 RPI. They certainly have played some people. And for them, it comes down to Mobley and also Adams. These two guys combined to average 40 points. Their backcourt is absolutely lethal. The question is, are they going to be able to get enough scoring from other pieces? Because we know that Rhode Island will lock you down on the defensive end. They're in the top 25 in the nation in regards to defensive efficiency. We've seen them just completely hold down opponents. Heck, even without E.C. Matthews, this is a team that can be very good. And oh, by the way, E.C. Matthews, as far as I know, is a game-time decision. All my sources say that he's probably not going to play, but that's certainly not certain yet. So that is something you want to keep in mind before making a play on this one.
Yeah, I've heard the same. I don't think E.C. Matthews going to play. And look, frankly, Greg, I don't think it's that reliant that he does play. They're not much different without him. I don't think at this point. You look at the 6 games that he hasn't played this year. Listen, I'm going to come out and say it. I think as a trifecta, Doughton, Terrell, and Jarvis Garrett, I don't think there's 3 better guards on one team that play together than these 3. This is a great group of guards, and in this game in general, it is a great group of guards. What I love about Doughton, who I got to tell you, I think he could be one of the more underrated players in the country. This guy has been extremely important for this team. He's 3rd in the country in assist to turnover ratio. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's a fantastic point guard. And he really puts his team in good positions. I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm not concerned about Mobley and Adams. They'll get theirs. They'll feed off the crowd. And, you mentioned the 40 points. They still lost, and they lost convincingly. They need someone else to step up. Is it Courtney Stockard, the 3rd leading scorer, 11 points a game on the wing? Yeah, maybe. Is it LaDarian Griffin? I don't know. They need someone to step up. If they don't get that tonight, they will not win. And I got to tell you, Greg, after looking at this game and looking at really every piece, I think Rhode Island's going to win this game. I know St. Bonaventure has to have it. I know, as far as resumes are concerned, if they lose this game, you could probably kiss a chance at the tournament goodbye unless you win the conference. I look at Rhode Island. I see a veteran team, a team that understands situations like this. They went into VCU last week, didn't have any trouble in a raucous atmosphere. Not sure it's going to have a big deal here either. I can't really go against them right now. I like Adams. I love Mobley. But as I continue to look at this game more and more, I got to go Rhode Island. And again, just a lean here. I think this would be a great game to watch. What do you think, Greg? What do you want here?
I'm right now, if I'm going to play this one, I'm definitely going to go Rhode Island myself, just because, like I said before, St. Bonaventure has two guys that do the majority of its scoring, and you just don't know what you're going to get from everyone else. Now, if you get like 55 from Mobley and Adams, great, but do we really see that happening? I don't.
No, I don't either. And they don't have that extra scorer. They don't have that dominant, wing player or a guy in the front court. I just don't think it's a real good matchup for them, especially with the way they play. And like I said, I do think it's when he's on the court, E.C. Matthews, he's going to be slightly better and give you a slightly more offense. But any player is going to do that. I don't know if it's that big a deal. They have plenty of guys that can play. They've played without E.C. before. I'm not sure that it's a gigantic situation whether he plays or not. I'm actually capping this game on if he'll and that'll not play. So for me, I'm going to rock with that. Let's keep it going down the card. Again, you don't have an opinion. We don't need to go into too much. Oakland, Cleveland State. Oakland obviously off a loss to Youngstown. You talk about a team, Greg, that continuously is just an underperformer every year. It's the Oakland Golden Grizzlies. I think they really have to consider looking at Greg Campy's future there. I mean, how many times are you going to have real good basketball teams and not go to the tournament? I mean, it's kind of disgraceful, really. They've had good team after good team. The Kay Felder years. You look at the Kendrick Nunn era this year. Just can't get anything going. I kind of like the over here. Cleveland State's been playing better lately as far as offensively. Oakland, we know, will score. Neither of these teams play a ton of defense. What are your thoughts on Oakland, Cleveland State?
I think that Oakland could be in for a bounce back spot here. You have to think that they're going to come out with a better effort than the way that they ended against Youngstown State, because this is a team that was actually covering with like 2:30 to go. I believe they were up by 7. They give up the final 9 points of the game. I mean, that was just an ugly and brutal end to that game. I think that Oakland's in for a bounce back here. If I had to play it, I would probably lay the points.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, but I mean, it's hard to ever really trust this group. I just don't have a ton on it. I don't really ever want to put my money in the hands of them. I just don't think they're a very good team, frankly. Brown, Harvard. Harvard, obviously a team that a lot of people always enjoy. They've been in and out with Bryce Aiken over the season. Brown's had kind of an up and down year, very up tempo. You like the run. We've kind of seen a new Ivy League a bit, with Brown and Columbia and Cornell. These teams play pretty quick. They're pretty good offensively. Don't play a whole lot of defense. Any thoughts on Brown, Harvard?
I think that if you're going to have to play this game, you got to lay the points. I mean, or you got to take the points, I should say, with Brown, because Harvard is a team that, let's face it, they play a more defensive style. Meanwhile, Brown is a team that likes to run and gun. I mean, with Harvard's defensive style, they win games that are very ugly, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 59, 55, 63 to 60. So while Harvard might win the game, I think Brown has a very good chance to cover. And we've seen Brown cover against some very good opponents. Heck, they took Providence overtime earlier this year on the road.
We got a commenter. You said St. Bonaventure earlier on your show. Yep, keep in mind that was 7 hours ago. At that time, I thought St. Bonaventure was a decent play. As I looked into it, I did my real handicapping. I'm not as interested. I would go with Rhode Island at this point after looking at things. Greg, you would agree that 7 hours, things can change, can't they?
Oh, they certainly can. That's why I put out their leans, and then people are just like, but you had it as a lean. And then it's like, yeah, the line moved by 5 points.
Yeah, and it's for me not so much, in this situation, I look at things, opinions change. I'm not normally one to do that. I normally, when I have an opinion, it normally stays the same. But as I look more and more into the game, I spend a lot of time on this game. I don't normally spend a lot of time on games. I'm usually pretty good at deciphering them pretty quickly. But in this one, as I look more and more into it, I like the other side at this point. Let's keep it going here. Detroit, Youngstown State. I'm kind of jaded right now with this conference. I had an over the other night. It was right on the total. It just didn't work out. Detroit, you never know who's playing for the Titans. They've been in and out. You have guys out for academics. You have injuries. Even their coach at one point was out this year with some personal problems. This is a total stay away game. I wouldn't bet this with my worst enemy's money. Any thoughts, Greg?
Yeah, I don't have much for you here. I mean, Detroit is a team that's very, very bad on defense. So if you're going to play something, just play the over.
Yeah, it's never a bad idea. I don't have anything on Yale, Dartmouth, or Penn, Columbia. You have anything on these two Ivy League matchups?
If you had to play it, I would actually lay the points with Penn in this one because Penn has been actually really good in Ivy League play. They've been covering quite a bit. They've been winning a lot of games by double digits. So if you're going to play a favorite out there in the Ivy League, I'd probably go with Penn.
Northern Kentucky, Wright State. Good game here in the Horizon League. I think the two teams that I'm personally real interested in this conference. This conference is always seemingly very open every season. You never know who will win, but Northern Kentucky got it done last year. John Brennan's done a great job down there in the Northern Highlands of Kentucky. They haven't lost a road game in this conference all season. Wright State is kind of one of those slow tempo, pretty solid offensively all season, but I have a hard time kind of betting against Northern Kentucky. They're always real solid. They're getting a point in this spot. They're the better offensive team. They've been really good on the defensive game. You look the defensive side of the ball. You look at in conference this year, they're only giving up 65.5 points a game. And over the last 5 games, Greg, opponents just shooting 36.7%. That's impressive. They don't turn the ball over a ton. They're a really solid basketball team. I like Northern Kentucky a lot. I don't hate the Norse. Give me a point and I'll take them. Haven't lost a game on the road all year in the Horizon.
And something else to consider, Wright State in regards to offensive efficiency, 250th in the country. That's not a typo. They're right now second in the Horizon League with the 250th most efficient offense in the country. Northern Kentucky, meanwhile, they're in the top 60 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. They're the much better, more well-rounded team. They're better from three-point range. You have to look at the Norse in this spot, despite the fact that they're hitting the road.
Yeah, question on the total. I mean, both these teams pretty good defensive groups. I could definitely see Northern Kentucky getting into the 70s. Question is, can Wright State? They've been pretty average, really, all year, and you're not getting this team at an offensive explosion at any point over the last 5 or so games. Only shooting at about 41.5%. Not a particularly good 3-point shooting team. Don't pull down. Neither of these teams are great offensive rebounding teams either. It's pretty important when you're looking at a total. Obviously, those easy buckets. These teams aren't particularly fast tempo wise. Not really sure I have much on the total in this game. A lot of people bringing up E.C. Matthews, guys. Again, I don't really. That doesn't do much for me. I like Rhode Island without him. So if he plays, it would be just a bonus for me. I think there's going to be conflicting reports. The truth of the matter is, and Greg, you can attest to this, unless you have someone in the building or you have a very reliant injury person, which I have to say, in the Philadelphia area, I have real good, injury guys. I don't think there's anyone that might dig deeper than me for information. I'll go anywhere, but I think all the E.C. Matthews stuff, I've heard real good things that he'll play, and that was from teammates and stuff. And then I've heard today from various, people like, Dave Koken tweeted out some of his sources. But I guess according to, and I want to see here, according to John Rothstein, according to Hurley, he's going to play. So, listen, if he does, he does. It doesn't really matter to me. I capped it that he wouldn't play, so it's just a bonus for me. Looks like, yeah, according to Rothstein, he's going to play. So that's interesting. We both liked. I like Rhode Island. What's that do for you, Greg?
Yeah, you know what? I had this as a lean earlier in the day just because I wanted to see how this would happen. I wanted to see how the line would move. Now that E.C. Matthews is in, I would think that that's worth at least a point. So, you know what? I'm probably going to go take this from a lean to a play myself.
Yeah, it's definitely important, but we'll see. Are you playing Rhode? No, I just said it's just a lean. Greg, are you playing it?
I'm actually going to play it, so yes.
There you go. Michael, I'll get into that a little bit later. Michael Coleman, I'll give you a prediction on that. Let's keep it going here. Princeton, Cornell, final Ivy League game here. Greg, Princeton's not playing well right now. Not at all. Really having some trouble. Any thoughts on the Cornell and Princeton game?
Cornell is definitely a lean for me. I mean, Princeton's lost each of its last 4 games. 3 of those have been by 15-plus points. Princeton is a dumpster fire right now. I know that Cornell is not necessarily the biggest steamroller out there, but I mean, Cornell has beaten some quality teams at home. I still recall earlier in the year, Toledo went into Cornell. They were unable to pull out the win there. This is a Cornell team that has a very explosive scorer in Morgan, so you got to look at the points in this spot. I typically like short home dogs, and I definitely like this one too.
Yeah, Matt Morgan's been a great scorer for Cornell. Good point. Big Red says Cornell, or says Greg Peterson. IUPUI Milwaukee. A lot of points here for IUPUI, isn't it? I know IUPUI is not a team that I'm running to the win at a bet, but neither's Milwaukee. This is interesting because I think you look at this game and you say, "Wow, why the hell is Milwaukee laying 9.5?" It might be telling you something. IUPUI might be where to look, but neither of these teams I'm ever running to the win of the bet. The Friday card sucks, Greg, always. I mean, you have teams that you just I can't really find a situation where I'd ever be interested in IUPUI. This might have some value maybe, but do you have any opinion here?
It's IUPUI or pass. I mean, just on principle, you have to look at the points, but at the same time, I mean, if you're really getting off on betting UW Milwaukee versus IUPUI, you need a new hobby. I mean, this is one where I just don't feel like there's a lot of money to be made. And let's be honest here, are you really going to be watching a great basketball game here? Probably not. I mean,
yeah, I just
a little bit more sure of.
I just don't really understand, like, if you're a handicapper, and look, I get like sharps, look at everything, but look, Greg, I think you and I are pretty good. We're pretty sharp. I think we both had great seasons. We're telling you personally, we're probably the best of the best in this. I don't see any significant reason why you would want to bet on this game. I don't really see what the value is. Obviously, there's a reason the line is where it is. Illinois, Chicago, Green Bay, another good spot. Illinois, Chicago has been on my card many times this season. They have been fantastic since Tarkus Ferguson came back. They've covered 11 of 14 in this Horizon League this year. They've been fantastic on the defensive end, particularly all season. The offense has really picked up once they hit the conference slate. They're good from the foul line, do a nice job at rebounding the basketball. Any reason you don't like Illinois, Chicago here, the Flames?
Illinois, Chicago is a play of mine. Dikembe Dixon, the first time these two teams played, just lit the Phoenix on fire. He was like 10 of 12 from the floor. He had 23 points in that game. Illinois, Chicago rolled UW Green Bay. I don't see why anything different is going to change here. You got to lay the points here with UIC.
Any trends or thoughts in Ivy League teams that play back-to-back on Friday and Saturday? Does it favor the home team like Harvard? I can't really answer that. I don't do a ton with the Ivy League. I'd imagine it would, you probably look situationally at what teams have traveled and stuff like that. But I've learned in this a bit, in this college basketball business. I mean, most of these teams by the end of the season are either tired or they're kind of just used to it at this point. Do you have anything on that, Greg?
I really don't. I mean, just like you, I don't play a whole ton of Ivy League games, and typically I play the Friday games because what you notice with the Ivy League games is on Saturdays, they are the last lines that come out, so you have the least amount of time to be able to handicap those games.
And they really just get hidden really in the in the whole scheme of things. The Ivy League for me is probably a great tournament. It's always a great tournament to bet, in the conference tournament season time, but yeah, other than that, I don't really get too involved. Battle of Georgia, Georgia State, Georgia Southern. This is always a good one down in Statesboro tonight. Big Chucky Brown fan for Georgia Southern, great player. Obviously very reliant on ball screens. If you know anything about Georgia State, according to all the different metric ratings, very good against that ball screen defense. These are two pretty good teams. ULL better look out because I know these teams have handled and played well against ULL. Three of the best teams in the conference. These are two of them. It's a battle, I'm sure. I would probably take the team getting points, and that's Tukey Brown and Georgia Southern here at home. How do I not look that way?
Yeah, I mean, this is one where I think that Georgia State is a better team, but at the same time, Georgia Southern is the one at home. So, I mean, this is one where you really pick a name out of a hat and go with it. I think that this one could be a 2-point game either way. So I'm just going to stay off because I feel like this one is your ultimate 50-50 matchup.
Yeah, could be a real barn burner here. Honestly, these are two real solid teams down in the Sun Belt Conference. Canisius at Monmouth. This is a pretty heavy trip, and Canisius does have Niagara on deck. Just keep that in mind. That's a big rivalry game up there in the Buffalo area. But the truth of the matter is Canisius has been pretty good against the number this year. One of the better teams in the country, 16-8 against the number, 9-4 in conference. Have done a nice job all season of filling up the hoop and really have turned it up defensively lately. Here's my concern with the Monmouth Hawks. Not only have they I don't know what King Rice is doing. I guess he's just saying, you know what, we know some of our players are hurt. We want to kind of get to that conference tournament, just kind of pack it in. Seaborn's been in and out all season. Austin Tillman's hurt. I guess they've kind of just said, you know what, we'll play out the string and hopefully we could do something in the conference tournament. I don't have a lot of interest tonight in Monmouth just because of the vast amount of injuries, the inability to play defense, the fact that they just cannot get through games without fouling at a high level. You put Canisius on the line, they're going to make their shots. They've been fantastic defensively. What's the miss here with Canisius, Greg? Is there any?
Yeah, if I'm playing this one, I'm going Canisius all day. I mean, Canisius has been a really good play of mine throughout the year as well. I really like this Golden Griffins team. And like you said, Monmouth is a mash unit at this point. You don't know who's going to be playing, especially Micah Seaborn. I mean, tracking his injury status has been the bane of my existence all year long. I've got so many people on Twitter asking for his status. And it's like, I know as much as you guys. I mean, it's a pain. I mean, if you're going to take a side, you got to take Canisius in this one.
Yeah, I think, and I'm sure you've kind of gotten to the point of, I think at this point, it's probably safe to say you hold them out until the end of the season. I mean, you're not, and this is the funny thing about the conference or the college basketball season. When you're getting to this time of the season, Monmouth is what they are, okay? They're going to the conference tournament, and they're going to see what they can do at that point. They're not going to not make the conference tournament. They're not going to, these games are really, pointless, frankly. I mean, their season begins when this conference tournament starts, and right now, why not hold them out? Does it make any sense to play them? I think the writing's on the wall there. Final game of the night, Bowling Green and Buffalo. Buffalo having obviously a very good season in the MAC conference. I know, Greg, I think it was you. Yeah, it definitely was you. You mentioned real early in the season you weren't a big MAC guy. I think the conferences that I bet the least on are the MAC and the Ivy League. And if you know much about, they're both generally on Fridays or, they have some semblance on Friday. Bowling Green is a team that they're hard to gauge. They've actually been playing real well lately. They're 5-0 against the number over the last 5, covered 9 of 13. Listen, I might be in the minority here. I like Bowling Green in this game. I think it's a lot of points. I see a Buffalo team that's had some struggles on the defensive end lately. They're going to keep you in games, Greg, because they also, like Monmouth, have a major issue with fouling while guarding. They can't defend without fouling. They're going to cut you on the line. This Bowling Green team, very solid from the stripe. I kind of want to take the 14.5 points here. Do you have any thought on this game?
I'm considering playing the 14.5 too. When I took a look at this line, I'm just like, this seems a bit too high because Bowling Green has won 4 of its last 5 games. I mean, I know that they're not playing world beaters of competition, but Western Michigan is no slouch. Eastern Michigan is an okay team. Ohio's been a little bit underachieving, but still Ohio. Kent State, I mean, they're certainly not world beaters. I know that they had that bad loss to Toledo a couple weeks ago, but past that, Bowling Green has been playing some quality basketball. The one thing I will warn you about is Bowling Green seems to get blown out of a couple games. So that could be why the line is this high. But at the same time, I'll take my chances with the Falcons.
Yeah, it's definitely definitely an interesting one for sure. I mean, you obviously are you look at what Buffalo's done all season. They've obviously had that I think 10 straight in the conference against the number. But you look at this, at this point, I mean, they're kind of at this point a very average. They won 10 straight in the they didn't cover 10 straight. They won 10 straight. They're 6-5 against the spread. Okay, that's not. Again, that's not a world-beating number. This conference is fairly good. I mean, most of the teams are pretty solid. Buffalo's going to win the MAC East. Okay, the next closest team is Bowling Green, 4 games behind. They're going to win the MAC East. Obviously you want to keep winning MAC games, but they'll win this game. Can they cover? That's a lot of points. I'll take the 14.5. Looks like a pretty solid play here. Your only issue is Greg's comment on. They do get blown out a good amount and that kind of thing. But Justin Turner, DiMaggio Wiggins, Dylan Fry, I think they can hang in this game, Bowling Green. Other than that will do it. Question here from the chat, and this is kind of up my wheelhouse here. I love I'm a big draft guy. I like to kind of predict the draft. Whose game would you compare Ayton and Bagley to, NBA past or present? Ayton, I would say Hakeem Olajuwon. And Bagley, I would say Chris Bosh probably. Ayton, Greg, and I don't know if you saw this tweet. Fran Fraschilla actually mentioned it yesterday, and I thought it was pretty unbelievable. I'm sure it was hidden kind of, in the many perils that Twitter goes into. But I think it's amazing that Deandre Ayton isn't getting the same love that some of the great bigs we've seen over the last 10 years have gotten, the likes of, DeMarcus Cousins, Karl Anthony Towns, Joel Embiid. DeAndre Ayton has very similar numbers to all those guys, statistically and, looking at metrics. What are your thoughts on Ayton? Do you think he's the number 1 pick in the country? Because I do.
I really like DeAndre Ayton. I mean, I saw him yesterday in that game against Arizona State. He had something like 26, 18, and 4. I mean, the guy was absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand why we're sleeping on him so much because, let's face it, if it weren't for him, Arizona would just be way, way underachieving instead of just minorly underachieving. Because let's face it, Alonzo Trier has made some boneheaded decisions with the ball this year. Raleigh Elkins has been in and out of the lineup. Ristic has been really no help whatsoever. By the way, why the heck is Sean Miller playing Ristic and Ayton on the floor at the same time? They're so clunky when they're out there both at the same time. But DeAndre Ayton's such a special player. I am completely there with you.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And I think as kind of the season ends and we get past, all the games and stuff, I think one of the commenters, Kevin White, makes a good point. ESPN has ignored seemingly every other player other than the guy named Trae Young. So, but you look at the comps, Greg, quickly. Like, you look at points per 40 minutes, rebounds per 40 minutes. Ayton at 24.1 and 13.2 rebounds. Embiid, 19.4 and 14 rebounds. Towns, 19.5 and 13 rebounds. I mean, Ayton has better numbers than Embiid and Towns, per 40 minutes in points and rebounds. He's not as high with all these other guys at blocks per 40 minutes, but still 2.2 per game. That's pretty impressive. I'm all over Ayton. I think he's the best player in the country, and will go number 1. And I don't know that it's going to be close. We need to give Ayton his respect because if he can continue to play at this level, keep getting stronger, work on his footwork a little bit, the sky's the limit for the kid. And I think long term he is going to be one hell of a player. People kind of forgot about him last year because he was in high school. They thought he maybe would forego college and go to Europe and play for a year and then go straight to the NBA. But obviously Sean Miller was able to grab him. If it is the Orlando Magic, you get the first pick or whoever, they're going to get a great player here in DeAndre Ayton. Greg, other than that, great stuff, man. Always like talking college hoops with you. Like I've said before, there are not many people that I like to talk college basketball with. I don't know about you, but I'm just not a fan of talking to people on this level that don't know what they're talking about. It's kind of awkward. It's not fun. You definitely make college hoops fun, and it's nice to talk to people that know what they're talking about. As always, great stuff, man. And where can people find you again?
At @GUnit_81. And then the March to Madness show is tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on the Vegas Stats and Information Network, Sirius XM, Channel 204.
Yeah, check out Greg and all the guys over at VSIN. They do a nice job. I know Matt Humans. I've been on with him before. Good guy. John Von Tobel. Obviously, Greg. Greg, you produce Brent's show, don't you?
Yep, I do produce My Guys in the Desert. We sort of have rotating producers with that, but I'm one of the main ones for it.
Awesome. Greg, awesome stuff as always. We'll talk to you more and more as the conference season goes on. I would like to kind of chat with you maybe next week on one of the shows if we have a slow one on some of the stuff you're doing with bracketology. I think that's cool as well. Real quick before I let you go, who are your first four out right now?
My first four out, let me pull that up for you right now because we've been changing that thing around like crazy. I can tell you right now, Louisville is getting very close to the bubble too, but my first team out is Baylor, and then you got Boise State. Temple is there in the first four out because they had such a good non-conference schedule. Had they gotten a win against Wichita State yesterday, it would have really been interesting. And then we've also got Nebraska, a team that is piling up wins, but they're piling up wins against nobody, so they're not gaining as much traction, but they're right there in the first four out.
Yeah, Greg, we still have a couple minutes, and you're good with time, right? I kind of wanted to ask, I kind of opened a can of worms here that I wanted to ask you about. I do a show at night now. It's a call-in show, and I had people call in all the time, and I have a lot of people that call in about Nebraska. And my co-host that joins me, he thinks Nebraska should be in the tournament. He doesn't understand why, and none of these guys understand that when you're looking at a team from a bracketology perspective, it doesn't matter, what they've done lately. It's a cumulative review of their season. And when you see it in Nebraska, not only have they not beaten anyone worth talking about, but you look at going forward, there's just not many opportunities to get into the field. So they're not going to change where they are unless they, and the same thing with Penn State. I mean, that's another, thing to point out. Penn State, unfortunately, had a horrible non-conference schedule. They didn't challenge themselves enough. And, I think people they don't seem to understand that, like you said, it doesn't matter what you're doing now and if you've won 5 in a row and covered 4 or 5. Nobody cares about that. It's, have you beaten good teams? Where have you done it at? And what do you have to show for it further? Nebraska's not going to move the level, are they? I don't think there's anything they can do unless they make a deep run into the tournament. They've made their bed like every other bubble team throughout the years. They have to sleep in it now.
Exactly. And right now what they're doing for the committee this year is Group 1, Group 2, Group 3, and Group 4 wins, sort of a tiered system. Group 1 wins indicates that you beat a team with a top 30 RPI at home, a top 50 RPI in a neutral court, or a top 75 RPI team away from home. Right now, Nebraska, 0 Group 1 wins. There is nobody in my field with 0 Group 1 wins.
And that's also one of my I also have a lot of callers that call in from the Michigan area that are upset about they think I hate Michigan State. And I said, listen, it's nothing personal. I just don't like their resume. I don't think it's impressive. I look at everything they do. The RPI has gotten a bit better, but the strength of schedule sucks. The non-conference strength of schedule is 249th. I think they have 25 wins against the sub RPI 101 or worst. And I don't really, other than Purdue, is they're a quality win other than maybe North Carolina and Purdue? I just don't see it. And people are, they're great. They're rolling. The Big Ten is a bad conference. Last question I have, Greg, and then we definitely will let you go here. I'm a big Temple guy. I'll be at the game on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to it. Obviously, you mentioned their out-of-conference stuff and all that Quadrant 1 stuff. I think with a win, they're in if they beat Houston. You would agree, right?
I can't put them as a stone cold lead pipe lock if they're in, but if they do knock off Houston, I think that they're probably going to, at the very least, climb into my last 4 in come Monday.
Yeah. Where do you have Arizona right now? Question from the chat.
3 seed.
Yeah, I agree. Greg, I'd love to compare brackets with you sometime, man. That would be awesome. Good stuff as always. We'll chat with you hopefully next week, Greg. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Yep. See you, man. Greg Peterson calling in from VSIN. one of our really valued guests here. We have him on, try to have him on every Friday. Sometimes, the card is so small. It's like, I don't even know I'm going to fill 15 minutes with it. It's like 7 games. Give Greg a day off. I know sometimes, I know I don't get many days off. I don't get any days off. I definitely know he doesn't. So when he's off from VSIN, I try to give him, I don't want to bother him too much. Let's go to some comments here. We'll stay on for about 5 or 10 more minutes. Big man, please do me a favor and unblock me. I got to log out every time I check your profile. I want to discuss something here before we go. I've seen a lot of people recently complaining about me blocking them. I also see all the time that people complain that I'm too sensitive. I attack people. So I say, you know what? I'm not even going to bother with you anymore. You say something stupid, you're going to get the block. I have to do it. Okay. I'm not, I'm getting to the point where I'm getting a lot of people contacting me. I can't deal with the bullshit. I don't want to deal with, guys that get pissed off over a game or two. I just don't have time for it. And Landon, I'll unblock you, but let's not make it a constant. There's probably a reason I did it. For me, I'm just done worrying about it. I'm not dealing with it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. It's just kind of old. As far as being sensitive, it's who I am, what it is. I don't like people talking about me, Pound sand if you don't like it. Pat McAndrew, big man, love the show. Been following you since you called into Barstool Radio. I just started watching your YouTube show. Do you put out videos on the weekend? No, not generally. I do some videos with SBR Forum. I do a video every Saturday with them. Probably tomorrow I will, or maybe I will. I don't know. I try to Saturday just put out the pics on YouTube. It's just a lot easier. I don't have videos on Sundays. I know this weekend, a lot of the time on the weekends, I maybe go to a game. I know Sunday I won't have a video. Generally, I just put them out on Twitter on Saturday and Sunday. Any Daytona picks? Yes, actually, if you want Daytona picks, head on over to SBR. I did a video. You can hear all the opinions. I have 3 drivers I picked. You can listen to that there. No problem, Pat. Appreciate you checking us out. Also, guys, tonight, check out the Viva La Vegas show. Me and Blackjack Fletcher. The new Blackjack Fletcher is now on Barstool Sports with a blog. How about that? The great Barstool Sports. We got Blackjack Fletcher putting out a blog. How about that? Catch us tonight for that. We're looking forward to another fun Friday show. What are your thoughts on Nova Xavier? I have no opinion on any game tomorrow. We'll talk about that tonight. Give us a call. As far as Michael Coleman, you asked about Rough and Rowdy tonight. Listen, I like $20 Chef. I bet it. I actually have money on my bookie, and I bet him. I put $300 on my bookie back on the first Rough and Rowdy. I bet half of it on Tex. I lost. So, I have $150 left. I just did it strictly to bet Rough and Rowdy. And I'm going to I put it all on $20 Chef. I just think for me, Smitty's a nice character. He's from Philly. I respect that. But I think $20 Chef is a better fighter. For me, I respect guys that, were in corrections. I think that's a tough thing to do. It's hard to be in corrections. You obviously see a lot of stuff. He's older, which I think is kind of makes him a little bit more wiser. He's in that age group where, when you kind of get them going, they can be pretty tough. Smitty's a guy that I think is we're kind of overreacting that he can go 3 rounds. I mean, that's cool and all, but the round's only a minute long. I think $20 Chef's just tougher, stronger. I'm going to go with him here. So I know I'm betting against him, Michael, but I think he's going to get the job done. Block first, ask questions later. Exactly. I don't got time for bullshit. Big man, I'm excited about MLB. What teams are you looking for in spring training? What teams are you looking to in spring training specifically? Looking at Milwaukee, the Angels. I'm interested in Texas, betting a lot of their overs this year. Obviously the Yankees because I'm a fan. I think the Phillies are interesting. I like that new coach. I wonder where Arietta will go. I'm kind of interested in that. I like both leagues. I'm actually going to start next week. I'm going to start team by team previews. I'm going to do them all here on the channel. So I'll go over, every team's, from 1 to 1, 1 to 32 or whatever it is. And we'll have that. So looking forward to that and where I have them finishing. Looking forward to baseball. It's fun in the summer. Have a great time. I know this thing we do who's in here is a big baseball guy. Who wins the dunk contest? I took Larry Nance. Also tonight, I have Jason Williams to win the MVP in the celebrity game. I took him at 14-1. You think he still plays pretty well. He's creative. He's glitzy, glammy. I think he'll make some plays. And I think he'll be a reliant player in that team. So I'll give it a shot. Jeff, how do you feel about the 13 Russians being indicted? Got to be honest, I didn't read much into it. I'll have to check it out a little bit later. But I do find it very sad that we continue to get notified. The federal government continues to be notified about these people that commit these mass atrocities. They don't do anything about it. I mean, we look back to Sunderland Springs, Texas. That kid that did that, he was known to the FBI. Omar Mateen in Orlando, known to the FBI. This kid, known to the FBI. I mean, what is the FBI? What do they do exactly? Why aren't these people being investigated? Why aren't they being arrested? Why aren't we doing something about this? If you report something to the FBI, you should have, belief and every belief in the world that it's going to be taken care of. As Americans, and I'm not sure why we're not, if something has happening that you think you can prevent, if these people are calling it into the FBI, I mean, what more do you need? These are people that if you would have did something about it, you wouldn't have this stuff going on. And it's a shame that we start being vigilant after bad stuff happens. We need to just be vigilant now. FBI's were worried about college basketball and insider trading and 80-year-old guys that they think are in the mafia and they're giving out $500 loans. I mean, really? I mean, let's go after the real fucking criminals. It's a shame. Big man, how did SBR find you and how did you start? Well, like 4 years ago, I was doing a short podcast. It was called the like the Weekly Odds Report. I would do it every week, and I was interested in doing a podcast, and I actually contacted Peter Loshak through a friend of mine named Brandon Shively. He was doing videos with Peter, and they set me up, and he didn't. Peter said no initially. He was handling like the content, him and this girl named Deb, and they said no initially, but they after a couple different emails, they allowed me to do some videos, and I started out doing college football videos with Peter. I would do them weekly, every Thursday generally, and it started that way, and then eventually got more and more popular. I started doing a show called The Odds Couple with Peter and Mike Brenner. I would go on 2 days a week. And through all this, I was still doing different content, shows and like different videos and stuff. And then I started hosting the Roundtable with Drew and Ian Cameron, and at the time, Ed Fang. We got Donnie. He came on board. We started doing a Saturday college basketball show, and then we started doing the right side of campus, and we had the late night on campus, and it's really just grown over the last couple of years. So it's been a fun ride. I mean, I remember SBR like back when I first came. It was me, Peter, Joe Duffy, Gavassi, Indian Cowboy, Mike Brenner. Oh, he was a little bit later. Megan Rochester was on a lot. Ross Benjamin. Who else was there? Brandon Shively, Justin Batt. I mean, there were a lot of real randoms, a lot of handicappers. We would just go on. It was strictly SBR at that time was strictly just game previews. That's it. There were no original shows. There were no like roundtables. There was nothing. It was just original shows. Peter would interview you, and you would give out picks. And it's really grown as far as the reach and how many different shows. Yeah, Indian Cowboys always been a tout. We were all touts. I mean, all of us have been touts. I was a tout for many years. Indian Cowboy was a tout. We were all touts, and we would go on there and push our picks, and then we would give out. They'd give us a little promotion, and people would contact us. Do you know Teddy Covers? Yeah, I know Teddy. We've known Teddy for many years. He was on SBR. He still is. I remember him coming aboard. Do I remember Jeff Cadillac? Yeah, I remember Jeff Cadillac. He's a character for sure. I've actually Zach and I have tried to get Jeff Cadillac on the show, which we've tried. It's been kind of tough, but yeah, it was a stage kind of thing. It went like, we got Ian Cameron who came aboard, and like Teddy and Drew Martin. Then it was Mike Brenner. Then Mike Brenner left, and now it's kind of we have all the original shows. Yeah, Illuminati Sports. Yeah, Justin Batt. Exactly. Yes. Yes. He's actually still out there. He just started selling picks again. Have I ever met Mark Lawrence? No. He's kind of an old school guy. No, I don't. I know who he is, but I've never met him. No, I've never done videos with him either. I figure since a lot of forum users post touts picks, they'd be blocked since most appear on SBR. Yeah, I don't know about that. Whatever happened to Paul Howard? Paul Howard works at a VSIN. He has a show there, and it was very busy for him to do both shows. So he was able to, he left SBR and concentrated on VSIN. Everyone have a great night. I got to go. I'll be on later with Blackjack Fletcher. Join us at 10:30. Guys, check out the show. It's really fun. We've had great calls. A lot of great people have tuned in. Check us out tonight, 10:30 Eastern. We're on until 12:30 Eastern, so 2 hours. Plenty of calls. I will talk about a lot of college basketball tomorrow. Make sure you check it out. We'll talk college hoops, NBA, MLB, and more. Give us a call anytime. I'll see you later. Check in for that. Tonight's play of the day, Niagara +5. Everyone have a great day. See you later. Bye-bye.